Choco, Seeker of Paradise, versus Minwu, Reese, and Kambal. Got two Final Fantasy commanders at the table, and unfortunately that's a one lander, so we mulligan. And we've got, alright, Exploration allows us into a turn 1 bounce land, so I'll keep this. Reese the Redeem makes it out on turn 1. A Give It of Runes as well, so we shock in the land. Exploration allows us into an additional land, and you do have to bounce the bounce lands to their own ability, so you need to get a land in first, can't play them on turn 1, which means we bounce the shock, and hopefully don't have to take 4 damage in total to it in 2 turns, but we might have to. Just drew into the Harrow. Authority of the Consuls would have been out on turn 1 if not for the tap land. Also got down Myriad Landscape. And no turn 2 plays from the other opponents. There we see a Plains, so yeah, probably best to shock in the Breeding Pool, sacrifice the Plains to the Harrow. Or I suppose we could just go for the Choco here, and then try to start swinging in with it straight away. Priority is being held up, and that is an Archivist of Ogma. So could have played that in response to the Harrow anyway. And this enters tapped, so that's what persuaded me to get this down instead of the Harrow, because obviously we're going to be working a turn behind if we get into haste. Not that we have haste at the moment. Kambal Profiteering Mayor in just in time for us to get down the side quest. Reese plays a Harrow of his own, so that will trigger the Ogma whenever an opponent searches a library, gain a life and draw. Alright, and we have a player Scoop already. So I'm glad I wasn't holding up the Harrow during his turn. Okay, Case of the Locked Hothouse. Could be worth getting down. Yeah, I think I'll get down the Locked Hothouse. We're going quite quick with our 4 mana here. Maybe should have waited until we swing in with this, see if we get into a land, but yeah, I think it's fine. So let's go to the left, see if we can get into a land here. And a Sol Ring goes into our hand, so yeah, that works out fine, because we can play the Gavany Township into the Sol Ring. And our opponent decides to block, so again, should have played a land actually before we swung in, totally balked this turn up, but hopefully the 3 commander damage won't matter. So now I play the land and get the buff, but we're getting our expensive spells out early at least. Wasn't expecting to be getting down a turn 2 Choco all that regularly. Myriad Landscape sacrificed. Halo Fountain, Reese hasn't made any tokens yet, but this can make them 15 or more and he'll be able to win the game. Reese coming in to attack us, you would assume, so he might be able to make some tokens at instant speed, and then uses this to untap the commander, so gets a tapped citizen token into play, and that is able to give this guy a tapped citizen token as well, so we each get drained. Kambal versus Reese is going to be an issue. We've got a decent number of token generators as well actually. Alright, a Hedge Maze for us, so we can make landfall with that. And Meticulous Archive we can keep on top. Can't play lands off the top yet, unfortunately. In fact, yeah, let's draw into that. Winged Words. Oh, I thought this was for birds. It's for creatures with flying that it gets the discount. Oh well, let's just do it anyway. That's the, it's a bit clunky this deck because it's bird tribal and a little bit of landfall all mushed in together. And the Chocobos don't have flying, so a lot of the best bird tribal stuff cares about flying as well. Anyway, we want green to go for 3 visits. And let's just grab a basic forest with that. Play Meticulous Archive. Maybe should have done that before the Harrow, but I'm thinking I'm going to hold up the Ambrosia here anyway. Alright, a Skyshroud Claim I will definitely keep on top, so put that on top. How many lands have we got now? 3, 6 and 7, so at the end of the turn, these things are really slow, but it'll be solved at the end of the turn thanks to the 7 lands. We'll be able to play lands and cast creatures and enchantments off the top. So now our commander is a 6/5. Maybe that commander damage I missed out on previously would have been useful. So Choco, we know, is not going to reveal a land. We're not seeing any birds, unfortunately. We're getting into all the mana though, and we don't get him to block. Would have been good to get the side quest in before now, but obviously Kambal, I want as few number of tokens as possible. Suppose if restart's going off, it doesn't matter. Avian Oddity is going to give evasion to our commander, so that's good. We can play... I don't think we can cycle that off the top. No, cycling has discard as part of the cost. You can't discard from the top of your library, so we'll have to draw into it and see what else is on top. a Lightning Greaves to protect the Kambal, and he's no intention of blocking with Kambal, so decides to swing in with that. Parallel Lives to get double the tokens, and then he's likely going to swing in at us with Reese and untap it again. Alright, takes the Citizen in. Instead, he can do this at instant speed, so if those tokens trade, then so be it. Kambal probably wants to hold back the token as a blocker for the Choco. Citizen token created, and gets 2 tokens into play, so Kambal gets some as well. And we draw, that is Sinking to Stupor. I'm not sure we can play as a land off the top. Maybe we can. I think, yeah, I'll do that actually. Most of the damage I'm taking is to my own mana here. Yeah, let's go for side quest finally. Probably should have done it long before now, but been trying to play around Kambal. So we get drained again, and that's the token for it. So now I'm trying to make as many lands as possible and get into the Oddity. Yeah, I think we can get in the Sinking to Stupor tapped. So that's Landfall on both of our creatures. Obviously only one of them matters. We've got a Ganjo on top as well. 2 more lands to make for the turn. But this is good card advantage for us because obviously we're not drawing into these while we're playing them straight off the top. And Nature's Law we will draw into off Avian Oddity. I think I'd rather shuffle, so let's go for Sky Shroud Claim. And here we can go for more basics, I think. I haven't put the dual lands in here, just the Surveil lands and the Shocks, in the spirit of it being bracket 2. So at Landfall twice again. And we've got some Gasal Greens as well, so another bird token, which is probably going to be an idea to do this turn if we can, because Kambal only triggers once. So let's go cycling onto this. And put the flying counter onto Choco. Priority now being held up by Kambal, it's an Orzhov deck, so he's probably got removal. And that's Cathar Commando, can destroy an artifact or enchantment. Birds of Paradise on top now as well. So yeah, instead of that, I'm probably going to go for... So we could go for Harrow, and then this. I'm just trying to do this before Kambal can take advantage. Yeah, I'll just go for it now, because I want to hold up the Ambrosia to try and protect our commander. And so the Chocobo, freshly being given flying, we can go straight over the top and probably take a big swing back. I'm going to draw into the birds. I can't remember how many lands we've made. Maybe we'll see another land and be able to make another one here. Alright, that is a Hunter's Insight we've drawn into in the wrong order unfortunately, but couldn't have played it here anyway. Haven't got any additional lands down with Choco yet, but we've got card advantage. And yep, haven't seen any spot removal yet, so it was always likely. Ambrosia being in play is probably fine, so let's save ourselves some command attacks, because the Cathar Commando has to go after the Parallel Lives surely. But that flying counter is wasted. I mean, we did force them to use the removal, but this is going to be the problem with this lower bracket build, is actually getting damage through with the Choco. That does mean that we don't gain any life either, so maybe it was worth gaining the life and then just replaying Choco, but yeah, difficult to say. Cathar Commando does blow up the Parallel Lives, so down to 3 cards in hand at least. We're making him use his stuff, but difficult to hold up blockers when Authority of the Consuls is in play. And after playing a land, the 3-2 swings in to the right, and that is allowed through, followed by Taser, Envoy of Ghosts. The Noxious Revival was used on something there. I'm not sure. They didn't put the Parallel Lives on top, so I'm not sure what they aimed that at. Oh, it was the Harrow that he went after. So there again, we see the Harrow played. And we'll see how many lands we can make here, because it might be that we can get a lot of damage through for the Hunter's Insight. I mean, the creatures are going to die to the Taser, but we'll be able to draw at least. This thing's going to be really slow in flipping round anyway. And it becomes a black Chocobo. Search your library for a land, put it in tapped, so that's not all that incredible anyway. Drop the Polluted Delta to get the buffs going. And that happens on all of our opponent's stuff. There is a Dawn's Truce here, which we kind of need a board wipe anyway. I'll probably just shuffle that away. At least buffing our Chocobos. We can encourage chump blocks, and probably won't block with Kambal, but if he does, then it'll likely die. Let's shuffle Polluted Delta, see if we can get any buffs now by playing lands off the top. So that is a basic again. Well, really? And did we just shuffle the Dawn's Truce straight back on top? I've never seen that happen before. Okay. Well, we've got 4 2s and a Harrow available, so let's swing in. They'll block at least one of them. Yep, block the token. and letting the rest through. So now we can go for the forest into the harrow. This will give us a shuffle as well as landfall. The more power we have, the better the hunter's insight is going to be. We're going to lose all our creatures here, unfortunately. But it's +2/+2 on all the creatures. The blocked one doesn't matter because Taser has protection from creatures. Okay, there's a mockingbird. So we could keep creatures from swinging in at us if we copy the Taser. That's probably going to be a wise move. So now 6 damage from the Ambrosia. Hunter's Insight pointed over there. And so the damage is dealt. He makes some... And so the damage is dealt, they're destroyed and replaced with spirits over here, which means he will drain us twice with Kambal. A token being created by Reese will give Kambal a tapped token. Not sure why he's doing it now. Might be that Reese can overrun all this eventually. Like I said before, it's a really good matchup for Kambal. So we're down to 26. And then a citizen token. Okay, and getting to reconnaissance, a bit too late, but we had to deal damage there anyway. Got Beast Within on top. Let's go for the Mockingbird for the Taser, I think. The wording on this is a bit odd. Whenever it enters, copy of any creature, mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana spent to cast this, so it's not X. It does include the blue pip, so we just have to go 7 mana onto that in theory. So X is currently 6, plus the blue pip is 7, so we should be able to copy this, I hope. And this will come into play tapped, but we can at least destroy the creatures that swing in with Taser. We can get through the Shroud as well. More life being gained by the consoles. And how many more land drops do we have? Probably a good idea to get Choco into play. Play Verdant Catacombs, shuffle, and go Lush Portico, because we've got the 4 mana for our commander already. Temple Garden is on top, so we can play that here. Unfortunately, not making use of the landfall with the current game that we're tangling with. Land on top. Let's play out our commander. Play the Temple Garden. The buff on our commander doesn't matter. Not going to shock that in. There's a Travelling Chocobo. That is going to be double the landfall triggers, as well as double the bird triggers, so I could set something up next turn. We've drawn into the Airborne Aid as well, so throw down our birds and play that to refill our hand again, assuming that we don't just die this turn. Hopefully it's Reese and myself against the Orzhov player. Reese might just be able to overrun and take both of us out at once. There's Forlorn Flats being played into the Chocobo to get its buff, and 1 damage dealt to us from that. Rumour Gatherer is going to scry 1 whenever a creature enters, and then, yeah, looks as though the Taser is holding our opponent back, so a 3/2 swinging in over here, trying to keep the token count down. I think I would have taken the damage there personally. I obviously don't know what's in Reese's hand though, so that attack could have gone a lot worse for us. And the Orzhov player down to 1 card in hand. So some kind of tribal board wipe would be beneficial to us, I think. Elspeth's Son's Champion probably does it minus down here. Maybe he does want rid of the Tasers. Luckily our Choco survives it. Yep, so immediately losing out on our big heavy flyer. You just have to assume that he's setting up for some kind of overrun. So once again, the only bird we're swinging in with is Choco. That is Azusa, is well worth having. So Windmill Slam her into play. How many lands do we have now? 2 additional, yeah, 5 in total so far I think. There's a Nimble Obstructionist. Just play as a creature, I think. The authority of the consoles is really screwing us here. Maybe drawing into that Beast Within would have been better. We see a forest on top. We need to keep track of the lands. Before playing that land, I maybe should have got down the Travelling Chocobo, actually. I'll do that now. It does say in tiny writing here, 4 land plays remaining. So we can keep track of it that way. Arid Mesa is obviously a fetch as well. Okay, there's Tashar. So that cares about historic spells, which is sagas, legends and artifacts. We do have a legend in hand, so let's play this. And this triggers birds an additional time. Oh, it's whenever a land entering. Okay, so that doesn't work with the Tashar. Myria Angel will give our opponent a flyer. I think the enchantment is doing some good work for us though. Might as well take this card advantage while it's available to us. I wonder if we can get another turn here. We might actually be able to start swinging in with some birds. which would be a crazy notion. Conduit of Worlds, ideally we would be able to draw into that because we've got fetches and a bunch of land drops a turn, but we can't get our Choco through anyway. I think I just want to trigger the Tashar here, to be honest. So let's go for the Senyu. And this will bring us back Ambrosia. Mockingbird is just a 1-1, so yeah, let's go Ambrosia. Do we want to bounce anything back to hand? We can bounce 2 things back to hand actually, so we could bounce back Ambrosia and something else. Maybe bouncing the bounce land would be a good idea at this point, so that we've always got a land to play over and over again. I won't mind shuffling away the conduit then. So let's bounce Ambrosia. Oh, you can't bounce her to her own ability, so okay, we'll just go after, if Magical Land wants to wake up, the bounce land, and then I'll say no to the other one. I suppose if I'd done this before now, I could have bounced the Soul Ring and played it again to gain a mana. So 3 lands remaining, let's shuffle for a Plains, and with haste on all of our stuff and some means of evasion, you can see how we would get multiple buffs here. And Myria Angel is going to get twice as many birds in for us now with the, what is it called? The Travelling Chocobo. We are just buffing the Orzhov player the whole way, unfortunately. There's an Avon Mind Sensor on top as well, and that is the first token we've made this turn, so they'll get a bird as well, which triggers the Drain, triggers the Rumour Gatherer for a Scry as well. 3 more lands to make still, so let's go for the Windswept Heath. Don't think we need the Avon Mind Sensor at this point. Yeah, all the same triggers onto the stack again, but at least Kambal only triggers once, so we're getting way more tokens here. And if we can keep this board state intact, we might actually be a threat next turn. Let's shuffle. If I can attack in with a land on top, then I will do that, so that we can just get straight into it with Choco and maybe dig a little bit deeper. Let's just get the Hallowed Fountain intact, because I definitely want Reconnaissance here. Alright, Crucible of Worlds. I mean, the game's obviously trying to tell us something, so I'll draw into that with Choco. And we can try and abuse it next turn. We've got Azorius Chancery to abuse land drops now anyway. So, yeah, I suppose we can, but best to have a little bit of redundancy, I think. We've managed to get the Orzhov player up to 53. 2 more land drops left. Let's play the Chancery and bounce it to its own ability. Oh, we get to bounce 2 lands actually, so we'll just target the Chancery with both of them. I suppose we could gain a little bit of mana here. We could bounce a Forest and play it, and then we can get down the Birds of Paradise as well. So bounce the Chancery, and we're getting the double triggers thanks to the Travelling Chocobo, don't forget. So yeah, that could hurt us down the line, but get down the Forest, play the Forest as our last land for the turn, and some kind of flying, unblockable trample at least on Choco would be ideal. Obviously it hasn't happened for us here though. So how big is that thing now? 16.5. I definitely want the Reconnaissance in play so we can remove it from combat. We're going to draw into the Crucible here, and we're going to be totally tapped out, but I don't think the tokens are going to make that much of a difference unless there's some kind of overrun. So we'll force them to chump here. Otherwise they're on 22 points of Commander. Reveal a Chocobo Kick on top of our library. And double blocking, yeah, that's just a 16.5. I'll take care of 2 tokens, that's fine. And finally, get down the Birds of Paradise. And now time to see if anyone wants to wipe the board on us. The Celestia player should leave us alone really, because we haven't shown him any hate whatsoever. But you might be worried that we can one-shot both players. Yep, a board wipe. Ugin the Spirit Dragon can minus down for 0 and just take out the tokens. We've still got a decent number of non-tokens in play though, so not sure what he really wants to do here. He's equipping up his commander with the Greaves. Okay, a bolt onto the Tashar makes sense, because if he went after Azusa, then we could likely just grab that back. How much does he want to dedicate to the red zone? Not a lot, apparently. So we potentially have a lot of cards to draw next turn. And Elesh Norn is going to deal with a lot of our board. So just like that, we go down again. Not having the best of luck here. Tokens being made into the Kambal. They come down tapped at least. I'm hoping that our opponent's going to dedicate some creatures over to that Ugin. He should be able to deal with it. And yep, swinging everything in to deal with Ugin. It can definitely go wide. So not likely that Kambal is going to be thrown in the way of this. And we're going to be making use of the Chocobo Kick here, I think, before we do anything else. Although we'll want Landfall. Yeah, this is the problem. We want to do Landfall into Emeria to get an army of birds before we go for something like this. But we need the buffs on our Choco first in order to be able to have half a chance of going Eleshnorn. Although there is a Scapeshift there, which we can draw into with our commander. Let's go Azorius Chancery then. We want 4 power on the Choco. So do we have to play and crack fetches instead? I think we do. Could always put a plus counter on it with the Township as well. Yeah, I might actually do that. I've joined someone else's game and they've got a really low clock for whatever reason, so I'm well behind here. I'm just going to kind of try and rush through things. So let's go Azorius Chancery. Each of us will gain the bird token, but it'll die straight away to Eleshnorn. In fact, we might not have to cast Chocobo Kick if we can just Scapeshift into a bunch of lands. Yeah, maybe we can just one-shot this guy anyway for getting rid of our board. Oh no, we have to draw first, don't we? Azorius Chancery again. This is why the bounce lands are so good in Landfall decks, because you can constantly play stuff. Keep playing lands, I mean. Even though there's none left in your deck necessarily. So we're going to kick this Eleshnorn going down. And we'll return the Gunjo back to hand. So down goes Eleshnorn. Now Azorius Chancery is our last land for the turn. Bounce back the bounce land. And then I think I want to go for the Airborne Aid now, so that we can go for the Scapeshift now, because we're not going to deal with both players in time. So let's draw 2 cards only to the Airborne Aid. There's Scapeshift. Not sure how many lands we've got left available, to be honest. So I'm just going to get rid of all the basics and hope that we don't go down on lands. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16... This all depends on, we might not be able to one-shot this guy. Yeah, I don't think we're going to have enough lands left anyway, but we can at least make a bunch of bird tokens. If I'd worked that out better with more time on the clock, then I could have tapped down some mana and floated it. Oh yeah, we do have a decent number of lands left. 3-3 City, we'll just go for a bunch of random stuff here. It takes a few seconds to select each individual land, unfortunately. So this is where our time's going. Yeah, we pretty much strip our entire library of lands. There's just a couple of fetches left. Named Bird with the Cavern. And then we get a bunch of landfall triggers here. Named Bird with the 3-3 City as well. That will tap for mana per bird we control. And I selected a creature type ages ago, but the client is currently struggling to put Emeria triggers on the stack, as well as all the Choco triggers as well. So we're just going to go down to time here. But this can be an exhibition match to show what Choco can do. And we'll have to try again at a later date, I think. Just been a really bad matchup for us. Bounce lands bounce back to their own abilities. And seeing as how we don't have enough power to one-shot this guy, even though we could have done. Yeah, it's currently a 19-6. I'll swing in at Kumbal and force him to block. Seeing as how he's been the biggest headache to us this game. Or should we not do that? Should we... Yeah, it's a little bit king-makey, isn't it? I'll actually swing in over here, and we could have got rid of him there, but we'll threaten it for next turn. Never know, we might be able to get into some of that elusive evasion. Drew into the Aven Interrupter. We can exile a spell with that and give it plotted, so if an opponent did manage to go after some kind of board wipe like Eleshnorn or Elspeth or Ugin, then we could have stopped it for a turn at least with this. You get the idea of how we want to run the deck anyway though. But I think we're going to have another outing with this one. Sol Ring for Kumbal. And a Grim Hireling as well. Grim Hireling gets haste. And swings in to the right. Swings in with both. So a couple of drains from Kumbal and this guy goes down. It looks like he is going to get another turn though. So like I said, with more time on the clock, I think this would have been quite a good game for us here. Sometimes you'll sit in the lobby with your own game up and no one joins it for whatever reason, so you're forced to join someone else's. I don't know how it works on Magic Online specifically, but had to join the player who scooped actually. I think we joined his game. And I've just lost like passing priority straight away here, but I'm losing like 20 seconds each time. Just the nature of the beast when you're doing YouTube videos, unfortunately. I've been criticised a lot for it over the years, but if you want the commentary and you want me to explain the gameplay, then it's going to take time, unfortunately. So we've got 3 land drops next turn. We don't have any fetchable targets for the fetches, otherwise that would have been Landfall for 6. And we've lost things like Azusa and the Travelling Chocobo for the double triggers, so yeah, things haven't gone our way anyway. We assume this guy's dealt with pretty much and we can deal with the Azorius player, but I doubt we can do anything at this point. A Cryptolith Rite is going to give the Celestia player with 3 cards in hand a bunch more mana. It won't expand the card for me, but turns the tokens into dorks. There we go. Each creature is doubled thanks to the Reese ability. I don't think he can get the win off with the Halo Fountain here. Authority of the Consuls continuing to gain lots of life. Oh, forget this is untap, isn't it? Yeah, this is an untap, not a tap. So, yeah, maybe he can actually do it here. Yeah, I think he can, assuming he's got 15 tokens in play. So that would be funny. We didn't dedicate as much power onto the Choco as we could have done, and this guy ends up pulling it out of the bag. And there we go, ends up getting the win with the Halo Fountain, which won't expand, but... Oh, and does he have to untap all of his creatures here? 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. He had exactly enough creatures, wow. So there we are, I'm glad we got to see a conclusion to the game at least. And that gives us a rough idea of what we want to do with Choco. Just try and do that, but with some means of unblockable, and you'll be able to one-shot opponents, as well as hopefully flying some birds through the air and getting card advantage and landfall while you're at it. I think this commander deserves another shot, so hopefully you all want to see it again. You'll have to let me know in the comments section. Apologies for the bit of a train wreck of a game, but I think these ones are fun every now and then. So hopefully you agree. Big thank you to the patrons for supporting me so vigilantly as well. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.